Hello everyone, today I'm here to demonstrate something that I've been working on, which is an interactive debugger for Ansible. I've been personally calling this project Ansibug, and it's designed to work with a client that implements the debug adapter protocol from Microsoft. Some of the more popular clients that do this are things like Visual Studio Code, Vim, Emacs, and a few other ones, but today I'm just going to be focusing on Visual Studio Code. Using a custom build of the VS Code Ansible extension, I can now use Ansibug to be able to set breakpoints, step in and out of tasks as they happen, get and set variables during a play, as well as test out any Ginger 2 templates as I go on. So here I've got an example playbook. It's got a few tasks in there, has an include, and nothing too major in there, but it's a very basic one. So first off, I'm going to place a breakpoint on this first line here, which means that when this playbook actually runs through the debugger, it's going to stop there. So if I press F5 to start it, things start magically happening in the background. I can see that the process has started, and now that we've actually paused on this breakpoint. So breaking down some of the components in this client, in the left-hand side, we can see that there's a few variables that we have here. The top one that we have are module options. So these are options set on the module itself. For example, here I have data for the ping one. We can see that it's reflected here. There are three more scopes that we have. We have task variables for the actual task itself, which is sort of like a snapshot of the variables at the time. Host variables, which are sort of more persistent variables for the current host that we're actually running on. And then finally global variables. So these are pretty much every variable that's actually happening for this host, for this play. The watch pane allows us to actually watch a specific expression as the actual variable, as the playbook runs through. So in this example here, we can specify an expression ping res, which means that we're wanting to watch that expression as we go on. Right now it is undefined, but as we continue through the play, this first task here will define it, so that should automatically update as we go into the next one. Then we have our call stack, which is this part here. This shows the host that we're currently running on and what it's currently stopped at. Right now we only have one host, which is localhost, and we have the task that it's running on. So task 1 is the name of the task, main.yaml is the name of the file, and then line 4. So it's just referencing this particular task here. At the bottom, we have a bunch of breakpoints that are currently set. Right now, it's just this one breakpoint in this file here. We can disable it, remove it, edit it, and do all sorts of stuff in here, as well as doing it through here. The main part of the screen is showing the editor itself of the file. As we can see that this breakpoint is currently stopped at this task, and it shows you just the line and the actual breakpoint that is on. At the bottom of the screen, we can see the process output as it's actually running. So this is coming directly from Ansible itself. Right now, there really isn't much because this is the first task, but that will expand as we go along. There's also the debug console. So this part here is just sort of things that you can run through expressions as we're running through it. In this case here, we can do a very basic one where we convert all our host vars for the current host using the two nice YAML filter. So in this case here, it's just going to spit a bunch of strings back out because it's interpreting the new lines in there, but we can use this to run any sort of template that we have. I find this actually quite powerful. I know in the past, one thing that I've been doing constantly is rerunning tasks to test out things like regex or JSON selection and other stuff like that. Being able to sort of stop at the task and run whatever you want as it goes along will be quite valuable. So we'll swap back to this terminal as we go along here. The last thing before we continue on is being able to actually set a variable. So right now to do that, we just go to the variable that we want to set. We right click, we go set value, and then we provide the expression that we want to do. In this case here, I'm going to provide the expression inventory hostname, which is a variable for what we have. If I'm wanting to use a literal string value, I need to make sure that it's quoted just like any other expression that we have. So we just press enter to set that, and we can see that it's automatically templated to a local host that we have there, which is nice. It shows us what the actual value is. So at this point here, we can choose to either continue the playbook, so it hits the next breakpoint, or choose to step over to the next task, or to do the latter here by choosing step over, which is this one. So as we can see here, the breakpoint or the playbook has stopped at the next task. We can see that the output here reflects what we changed our module option to, so localhost instead of test. We can also see things like ping res is now defined, so we can go into the variables to see what the actual values were. We can see that our watch has been defined, so we can actually see the value that we were going along. A few other things like the module options have updated for this particular task here. At the call stack, we can see that the location has been updated, so we're still in main.yaml, but we're on line 9, which reflects what we have here. And yeah, so that's sort of how you step into the next task. Another option that we have is stepping into a task. So if we've got an include tasks or an include role, we can choose to step into that one there and we'll automatically jump into the first task of that include. So in this case here, we can see that our call stack has been updated. So we have include.yaml line 1, which is this one here. We can also see that it includes the hierarchy, so the parent of where it actually was included. We can click on that and it'll actually go back to the task and show where it came from. It'll even show you the options at that time, so it sort of saves that state as we go through it. So if we go back to this task here, and we can see we have no module options or anything special with it. It's just to sort of show the step in. We can either choose to step over to the next one, continue, but another one that we can choose is to step out. So step out is sort of the opposite of step in, where basically we're stepping out into the next task before it included. So if we click this one here, it's going to skip this task and it's going to go straight on to the next one after this include here. So as we're running through this one here, we can see that the data has been automatically templated. So the ping res.ping, so we can see that value has been automatically set in there, and as we go along. So as we click on continue, it's going to continue to run through the tasks. We had no more breakpoints, so it's going to continue on to the bottom part here and until the actual process is finished. One final feature, another feature that I'd like to show you is how this works with multiple hosts. So if we just change our host to all instead of local host, we can see that it's going to run on whatever we have available. We'll clear the output of that terminal, so we start from fresh. And if we start on this one here, we can see that it's a very similar process here, but instead of having one host, we now have two. So host 1 and host 2. The way that breakpoints and tasks work is that it will actually apply to each host as it goes on. So we're currently on this first host. If we click on continue, the breakpoint will hit again as we go on to host 2. If we use our debug console, we can evaluate expressions as we go along. So in this case here, we can see that we're running on host 2 itself. One final feature that I want to show you here is how conditional breakpoints can be used to take advantage of more advanced situations. So in this case here, we currently just have a normal breakpoint. If I right click on it and go edit breakpoint, I can set an expression which will allow us to define when this breakpoint will actually apply. So in this case here, I only want to set breakpoints for our host 2. So what I can do is I can set inventory hostname is equal to host 2, press enter. It's hard to see in VS Code, but we can see that this breakpoint itself has two little black lines in there. And if we hover over it, we can actually see the expression that is on there. So if I was to run this one more time, we can see that host 1 has been skipped over, so we haven't actually stopped at that one there. We can see that host 2 is the current one that we're on. If we click on continue, it's just going to continue on from there, and it's never going to actually run on host 1. There are a few more fun features that comes with Ansibug, like attaching to an existing Ansible playbook process that may have been started remotely, adding or removing module options rather than just sort of setting existing ones, and a few other ones. This is still a pretty early offering, so there are some minor issues around static imports and breakpoint validation logic, but it does work quite well for the majority of the use cases with Ansible. To learn more about Ansibug and some of the features, I recommend having a look at some of the basic docs I've created. I'll add a link to this demo here, so you'll be able to explore that in your own time. The next steps, or going forward with this one here, is I'm hoping to work with the DevTools team to look at integrating this with the official VS Code Ansible release, so that more people can play around with it, and this can become part of an actual offering that Ansible can do. I hope that this is quite useful for people. I know this is something that I've been wanting for a really long time, so hopefully we can get this out in people's hands and people can start using it. Thanks everyone.